Ah, there you are. I thought we would continue our discussion on Marcus Aurelius and the Meditations. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, as the kids say. Let's continue, not where we had left off, but I thought that what we would do today, given that it is January 1st, we would do Book 9, Section 28. The recurrent cycles of the universe are the same, up and down, from eternity to eternity, and either the mind of the whole has a specific impulse for each individual case. If so, you should welcome the result, or it had a single original impulse from which all else follows in consequence. And why should you be anxious about that? The whole is either a god, and then all is well, or, if purposeless, some sort of random arrangement of atoms or molecules. You should not be without purpose yourself. In a moment the earth will cover us all, then the earth too will change, and then further successive changes to infinity. One reflecting on these waves of change and transformation and the speed of their flow will hold all mortal things in contempt. Well, I think there are a couple of things there that are interesting, and that I think today, of all days, is a very interesting concept to think about. So what he starts off with, the recurrent cycles of the universe are the same, up and down, from eternity to eternity. So this relates to a philosophical concept from Hellenistic philosophy that's not Stoic per se, because it was kind of described by someone before the Stoics, but the Stoics accepted this as a truth. And I find it a very interesting concept to think about. So the concept they're talking about is the conflagration. And in a nutshell, you have to place this in the Greek pantheon of all the Greek gods, with Zeus being the chief foremost of the gods, right? So the idea was that Zeus created. Just bear with me. Follow along here, because it's kind of interesting. Zeus created the universe, and Zeus is the prime god, the most important of the gods, and therefore Zeus has created the universe in a perfect manner. It can't be done any other way, because everything Zeus does is perfect, except of course maybe for the rape and the other things that he did. But let's not get into that. Theoretically, right? Again, just consider this a thought experiment. Zeus created the universe entirely from scratch. He did it perfectly. But the universe and everything in it will end. It will end in conflagration. And it's beautifully described by one of the Stoics how all the celestial bodies will throw themselves into this massive fire willingly, and the entire universe will burn up, and there's nothing left except for one thing: Zeus, because Zeus is immortal. Why exactly Zeus is immortal and all the other gods are not? Like, listen, don't look for the plot holes. Again, just follow along with the thought experiment. Now, the universe is then recreated. Once it's completely gone, everything is gone, Zeus recreates the universe. But because he did it perfectly the first time, he can't do it any other way than he did it the first time. So everything happens exactly the way it was before. So we still have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto no longer being a planet, etc. All of that is there. Everything else is there. All the stars, all the other exoplanets, everything is there. And most important to us, so are we. So whatever date you were born, you'll be born again. And then you'll lead the exact same life you led the previous time. Not a single thing can change, because everything was controlled by Zeus. And Zeus did it perfectly the first time. There's no way you can deviate. So there's no opportunity for you to learn from the previous time. You don't remember the previous time. And you lead your life, and at some point you pass away. And at some point there will be another conflagration. And the whole universe will end up in flames again. And then it will be recreated again, in exactly the same way it was before. And that's an unending cycle. Now, interestingly enough, there is a cosmological theory which is a little bit like that the universe kind of, that it was a big bang and it's sort of an explosion, and then there is an implosion again, and there's an explosion and implosion. There's also a lot of counter evidence for that theory. But anyway, these are not talks on cosmology, but it is interesting that may be a little bit like what it's like. But anyway, not getting into that. Here's what I was thinking. So sorry for the lengthy introduction, but I think I've talked about the conflagration before. But if you've not seen that video, then that you might not know what Marcus Aurelius was talking about. So what I was thinking about, honestly, was not so much of what he said, although it's very interesting, but he again gets into the distinction that he makes a couple of times in the Meditations of there could be a God. Well, how could a God be evil? If there is a God, then everything is fine, and there's nothing to fear after death. I'm paraphrasing and probably simplifying a little bit here, but that seems to be his argument. And on the other hand, he suggests, well, if there's no God, well, then you die, your atoms disperse, and that's it, right? And then there's not really anything to fear either. But that's a talk we've had before. And I was thinking today, because of it being January 1st, a lot of people make New Year's resolutions. And when you think about it, I hope this is not some sort of ham-handed segue, but when you think about it, your life is kind of a cycle as well, right? You go through different cycles, different phases in life. In a way, every day is cyclical, right? We have a day and a night and another day and another night, another day. And because so many people are making New Year's resolutions, December 31st or a little bit before that, and then they start a new year, and we all know that often these resolutions, that it doesn't work out so well. We know that people often fail at following through, or they do it for a little bit, but they don't follow through with their resolutions. And that made me think about, what if you approach this in a different way? I don't know if it works, but something I'm going to try to do. What if you try to turn over a new page and you try to look at it kind of as a conflagration? So the previous whatever period in your life has been now ends, comes to conclusion, you turn over a new page. It's not exactly a conflagration, because of course they would have to do everything the same way again. But what if you could break that? What if there is such a thing as a conflagration? We don't have to get into whether it really is or not. Like I find it highly dubious that we have lived this life maybe tens of thousands of times before. I don't think that. But again, as a thought experiment, imagine that you could learn something. What if you could learn something and you lead your life again? What would you do different? Now, if we accept that that could be a possibility, again, it's just a thought experiment. If that's a possibility, then why not start now? Why wait until the entire universe ends in flames? Why not do it now? If you could lead your life again, or at least continue to lead your life, what would you change? What would you do differently? And if you work on that premise, maybe it becomes easier to make changes. Maybe it's not enough to say, I'm going to work out more next year. I'm going to eat better. These are these typical things, right? What if we don't focus so much on that? Well, of course, those are very excellent goals. What if instead of that, you focus on, what could I do differently in everyday life? What small things can I change? We've talked about a number of things. We've talked about what is within your control, what's outside your control. We talked about everything has two handles. We talked about how it's not the thing that upsets you, but your thoughts about it. And all of those are things that you can try to work on, right? Maybe you have to work on really thinking about what is and what is not within your control. Maybe you do need to work on thinking about thinking. Maybe you do need to work on considering that your thoughts determine how you feel. Or maybe it's all of the above. But I think that if you could approach it like that, and you could say, you know what? That was one conflagration. 2020, which has been a very interesting year, is now over. And I'm not even necessarily talking about everything that's going on in the world. Just your own mental health, your own thoughts and feelings and emotions. What if you take charge? What if you say, this is a hard reset? I'm now going to do things differently. Well, and if you do that, you're going to slip up a few times. Maybe a number of times. It's inevitable. You're changing your behavior. And that will go wrong a few times. It's inevitable. But you can try. You can try and you can make that effort. The universe has ended. Now we get to start afresh. And I think you don't have to do that on January 1st. You can do it any day of the week. Or any day of the year. You can do it right now. Right now you could make the decision, you know what? This is what I'm going to change. I'm going to work on not getting angry so easily. I'm going to work on not... whatever. Again, whatever it is for you. And I think that can make a real difference. I believe that. And that's it. So, those are my thoughts for January 1st, 2021. I know about you, but I still find it difficult to believe that we're 2 decades into the 2000s already. I don't know why I find that weird, but it just strikes me as odd because I remember Y2K. I remember the days of old, but that's a different story. So, I hope this was useful. I again say I wish you a very happy New Year. I say this with very grave sincerity. I wish you a very happy New Year. But I'm serious. Thank you for your continued viewership. If you want to share something about something that you would like to work on, how you plan to do it, then by all means you're very welcome to. It's always interesting to read other people's comments. I'm sorry I didn't really address much of what was in the actual quote from Marcus Aurelius, but I think we have covered the main points. If not now, then before. Hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye-bye.